for 6 years. And you know, both my kids went through public schools. My daughter's still now a sophomore in high school. She swims and plays tennis and knows Serena does not have anything to worry about from her on the tennis court. My son's now in college, and I just know that, look, I played baseball and football in college, and he's now in the orchestra, so I can tell you, he didn't get that from me. A band director believed in him and his music ability when he was a freshman in high school. And because of that, he was able to get, you know, a tremendous opportunity. And certainly there's academics and athletics that go with that too. But he has a passion for that stuff. And I'm going to tell you that that happened because there was somebody in the public school he went to that first of all had the ability, and B, had the belief in him to give him a path that I don't know if anybody just would have just naturally been inclined to think about that in our family. So that's what public schools can do. And even obviously parochial schools can do that as well, but that's not really the focus of this tonight because of the tremendous strain that public education and certainly the Scranton School District has. We've been auditing districts now my entire tenure. We do every district about once every 3 to 4 years. So we've done about 2,000 audits of public schools since I've been Auditor General. I don't mean this as condemning or condoning, it's just a reality. This is about one of the 5 or 6 most challenged districts that I have seen. Some through their own making, some through not. I want to put out right away that there is one thing that I absolutely agree with the entire school board on. The public education formula in Pennsylvania is broken. It must be reformed, and poor urban districts need more money. There is no question about it. However, the money must go to the classroom and make sure and I don't care who I make mad in that process. And I know I got some applause here tonight, but I'm telling you, like, there's obviously, if it were that easy, it would just happen, which means we got some work to do. We know that there is now a recovery process that has started. The Department of Education will likely soon, I'm sure the Secretary will probably soon, I don't know who this individual is, appoint a recovery officer that will put together a plan. It is my hope tonight to hear some feedback on what we want to see, not just in that recovery plan, but broadly speaking, what needs to be done and what you want to see done in the schools so that it can be improved, so that every single kid, regardless of their zip code, can have the opportunity to achieve their dreams. So again, thank you for being here. We're going to hear from, and again, we're going to try to, I know not everyone here signed up, some want to listen, and that's fine. Not everyone is certainly required to speak. But I want to hear from students, I want to hear from support staff, teachers, and the public at large. And we're going to try to call on people in that order, not because there's any preferred lottery, but I want to make sure we know who we're hearing from when we hear the recommendation. But I want to make sure, because I know there are some students here tonight, and it takes a lot of guts when you're a teenager or even younger to get up before this crowd and start telling people what you think. But the ones that want to do that, I want to hear from them as well. So again, thank you for being here, and let's get rolling with the feedback. Again, how we'll do this, we've got, by the way, my team is here. They're kind of, I don't know if they're all together, they're kind of now a little spread out, but you know, they're here, so they're going to have some microphones. I think we have 2 microphones. We have 2 microphones, so when we call on you and you're called, we're going to come back to you with a microphone, because that we want to make sure everyone can hear at least the question or the comment. So with that, I first want to hear from a student. And I know some people signed up. So if you didn't sign up, we'll get to you after the sign up. But first of all, for who signed up, do we have a student that signed up to speak? And if not, we will go right to a teacher that signed up to speak. Who's going to be the first? Do we have to, please don't tell me I have to call on someone like the teachers have to. So, sir.
Hi, my name is Matt Loftus. I'm a teacher at Scranton High School. And I'm also a parent of a young girl who's in the 4-year-old preschool at this point, and I have a son who's going into preschool next year. And I just wanted to talk about the programs that were cut in the Scranton School District, curtailed. Some were not completely eliminated, but they were really curtailed. Physical education's been cut. The arts have been cut in the elementary school. Family consumer science, industrial arts, library has been cut. Foreign languages in the middle schools have been taken away. And as a parent, I went through the Scranton schools and I pleaded with the school board prior to making these cuts that I thought my children and the children I teach should have better than I had in the 1980s and 90s. And I think any part of recovery starts with restoring those programs, the library, the physical education, the art and music that was taken away from the children in this district. Thank you.
I just want to say, I'd love to guarantee that we can make that happen. But I will tell you, it is absolutely critical that we at least fight for it. Couple things. Number one, and I believe, I've said this enough times that I think if I'm wrong, I would have been called out on it. But I believe I am the only son of a convicted felon in statewide office in the United States. I know there's a lot of people that maybe your kids are millionaires and billionaires. That wasn't me. And it mostly started because of drugs. The reason why I bring that up is getting rid of art and music for poor and low-income kids is it's not 100%, but I'm telling you, it's an outlet for a lot of kids. So that's not saving any money. Beyond that, it's just, some of this is common sense. That is, you do get what you pay for. And that is, if you're not making the right strategic investments. Look, and some of this stuff I'm going to tell you, whether we like it or not, just a reality. My kids, your kids, everyone in here, we're not just competing with people from Cleveland and Louisville, Kentucky anymore. This is a global competition anymore for jobs. And we may not, I'm going to tell you, there's a side of that that makes all of us uncomfortable, and I get it. The side of it that makes me uncomfortable. Meaning like, yeah, it would be great to just compete in Pennsylvania. That's not our world today. Taking away foreign languages, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. Because our kids need them. And when it comes to our music, again, I'm someone, I was never in a band. If you heard me sing a note, you'd be running me out of here faster than you can imagine. Again, I was a sports guy. If I'm going to tell you, art and music, that's a death sentence for some kids when you take that away. So we've got to fight to get that stuff back in. We have to do it. Support staff. Anyone here signed up from support staff? Want to hear from you if you're here. Oh, yes. Sean's coming back.
My name is Roberta Chaddock. I'm a paraprofessional in an overcrowded third grade classroom, and I am a resident of Scranton for 36 years. Gladly paying taxes so that children can be educated. My question is, there's a lot of rumors going around about what's going to happen, and there's going to be layoffs, and there's going to be, schools closed, and our classrooms are overcrowded now as it is. And I have no idea the number of children in this district who need special education services because they have a 504, they have an IEP. And to say that possibly that staff is going to be laid off, I don't know how you do it. You can't imagine what it's like to be in a classroom as a PCA, a personal care aide, for somebody who spends the day beating themselves up and licking themselves like a cat. And that is happening in this school district.
I want to ask you a question if it's possible. What, and again, assuming it's not one, I mean, because that's the ideal, you know, we all have our own private tutoring, well, that may be ideal, we know that that's not. What would you say is a rough idea of a number that would be manageable? I know it's too high right now, and if it gets higher, it becomes much more unmanageable. But is there a ballpark of what you think would be more manageable?
As far as how many special ed
Yes.
teachers and paraprofessionals we would.
Yeah, when you have a class, how many can you effectively manage?
In a class, I would say at the most, if it is a class dedicated to autistic support or emotional support, 6 to 8 tops. And that doesn't sound like a lot to somebody who doesn't know.
No,
But, you know, 8 would be the absolute tops. And a certain number of those kids may need a one-on-one. I was in an autistic support classroom at Monticello, which is our building, our program, center-based building, for emotional and autistic support. And we had, in some classrooms, more adults than children, because the children would need a nurse or a nurse's aide, and they would need a para, and there would be a behavior tech, and there would be a teacher. It's out of hand, and when figuring out what we're going to do, you have to remember those kids, because there's more and more every day.
Do we have, and you may not know this, that's fine if you don't, do we have a rough idea of the number of kids or the percentage that fall into this special needs category in the district?
We have 2,000
Over
special ed
20%.
students in Scranton.
2,000 special ed.
Yes.
Thanks very much. Next up, for those that signed in, general resident. I know that that's sort of not the greatest term in the world, but we're trying to keep it somewhat organized. So, sir.
Hello, my name is Jay Walsh. I'm the founder of Occupy Wall Street. I think you've read a lot of my work. The fact is that this is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We're worth $7 trillion, valuing the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania bank, and now we're worth $70 trillion. You listed up here that your budget for schools is $12.3 billion. Do the math. We got lots of money, okay? Money's to be used, not spent. There's nothing more important than our children. When my children hit junior high, I basically used operative conditioning. I go, you make the honor roll, I take you to Florida during President's Week. And what do you think they did? And the first thing they did when they got down there is they're out in the sun like this. Okay. So we don't have a money issue. I do think we do have a stupid issue. Okay. And we have plenty of money, but that doesn't mean school board people and the support around it need to make it a feeding frenzy. Okay. And you know, you spoke to it. Okay. So I think every class and every student should have a computer at their desk and should be written into Khan Academy. And I think you're familiar with Khan Academy. And that frees up the teacher to focus on the kids that are lagging behind. Okay? I think kids can get through this curriculum probably in 10th grade. Okay? To be left to their own devices and go and do their work. I believe every school should have a pool. Every kid in Pennsylvania should learn how to swim. Okay? You know I've heard a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so the broader point that I think is absolutely correct, and that is there tends to be enough money for items that is a priority for Harrisburg, right? And so if education is the top priority, there should be the necessary resources for it. And clearly there's a pretty big chunk of kids right now in schools that don't have the necessary resources. here is what is important to point out statistically. That is, until about 2 budgets ago, from 1994 until 2 budgets ago, there was only one item in the state budget that increased every year. Know which one it was? Corrections. The average cost of incarceration per inmate per year is $50,000. The average cost of educating a child is between $12,000 and $15,000 a year. So to me, it's simple math. Do more of that investment on the front end, and you have to do less of it for the $50,000 on the back end. And when there's a will, there's a way. We'll find that. Let's see if we can pry that student out yet. If not, we'll move on. But is there a student that wants to speak up yet? I'm getting old enough that people that may not be students look like students. So oh yeah, you can stay, whichever.
I'm Brian Zakiewicz. I'm a student from West Scranton. I'm a sophomore. I'm part of the marching band.
Which instrument?
I play the tuba.
Okay.
And a question I get a lot from alumni of the band is, I used to play the tuba and all that, and I go, great, I still have your instrument, and they could have graduated 79, 80. Our marching band mainly funds that we have to get.
Right.
The school district provides only a slightly sliver of what we get in funds. And there's not a lot of funds. We can barely afford 5 pieces of music a year. 5 pieces of music a year is lucky for us. For an actual marching band, for an actual high school, that's barely anything for the season. And it's getting ridiculous because I got a job in the summer, started paying taxes now, sadly. And
that ain't gonna stop.
I'm literally contributing to stuff that is getting cut from me. Now, maybe it's a 1 penny that actually goes to the school district, but even if it was my toenail, I would still be mad. And another huge issue is, last year, my freshman year, we had a German teacher. Midway, she got, pregnant, had the kid. She eventually left because she could not just get the salary from the Scranton School District. She eventually went on to Abington. For a while, we were stuck in a limbo of who's our teacher. Now, she left in November. We did not get an actual permanent substitute teacher to teach this class until maybe 2 weeks before Christmas break of this year. The school district does not want to find anyone. Now, it's not very hard to find a substitute because now we're switched onto an online class, which is even worse because the online class, all the rules are in German. Now, we barely got taught German 1. How are we supposed to teach ourselves German 2?
Thanks for speaking up. That's awesome. I want a couple things. First of all, an apology from me. It was our next to last home game senior year of college, and I was getting this thing at halftime. And I heard our band play at the College of Worcester. And I'm here to tell you it was the first time I had ever heard them, because from high school on, I was always in the locker room. And I was embarrassed when I heard them because of how good they were. And we were the Fighting Scots. And playing those bagpipes, I can only imagine how hard it is. And it was awesome. And I remember thinking, going, wow, no wonder our crowds are so big. It's not to see us knuckleheads getting our fannies kicked every Saturday. It's to come hear that band that was unbelievable. So thank you for doing that, because just like the football team that's on the field, you're putting yourself on the line every halftime or before every game, depending on home or away, and you help bring a smile to a lot of people. So thank you for doing that. Now, on to the pay issue. Look, the easiest thing for me to say is I just think teachers and support staff should be paid more, and I agree with that. And as a taxpayer, I'm happy if that's where my tax dollars go too. But it's not just me. If anyone's been paying attention, there's been a movement in this country on this issue. West Virginia and Oklahoma, just to name two, and I know there's been some other states, where parents, general taxpayers, students, regardless of political affiliation, are tired of their teachers and support staff not getting paid the worth of what their profession is. And I've heard this from both the left and the right, and because there's something to this, that this economy is rigged against the working men and women of the United States right now, and we've got to find a way to change that. Now, I'm not sure we can change that in this room, but finding ways to make sure that whatever additional funds we're going to try to get from the governor and his team, and I don't want to speak for the governor, but I know he's open-minded on this, but we want to make sure that those are going to the right places and getting to the classroom for the teachers and the support staff to get them not only the pay they need, and it may not be as much as we'd like to get it to, but also making sure there's the number we need as well, and making sure that there are absolutely zero more cuts to those programs. We want to add back, not take away. Teacher next, and then we'll go to support staff, and then we'll go. So we're going to keep circling around. So we'll come to you next, over there.
Thank you, Mr. DePasquale, for coming out and spending some time and energy with us tonight. A couple of observations and then maybe a couple of questions. In 2012, your predecessor, Jack Wagner, cited the district for anywhere from 298% to 533% of the state formula for transportation. That was the performance audit on 06, 07, and 07, 08. Since then, I did some of the math. There was a red flag that went up. 500% sounds like a lot to me. And since then, over a 7-year period, the transportation contracts have increased. The expenditure for the district has increased by an average of 11% per year. Now, let's compare that with the expenditure for teacher salaries, 1% per year, on average, over that same, this is coming right from their audits. Inflation was roughly 2%. The revenues that the district took in from local taxpayers, from state subsidies, from federal, an average of increase of 3% per year. So anyway, those are the observations. Injustice as far as I'm concerned, but locally, is there any legal obstacle to bidding out some of our transportation contracts? I looked at the contracts. There's a clause in one of them that says that the district could reduce the number of buses at their sole discretion at any given time. It is, it's part of the recovery process. Could it be that we mandate somehow that some of those bus runs be put out to contractors who would charge a lesser fee?
Yeah, okay.
And then the second question, statewide, is there any appetite among legislators to enact legislation that says that service contracts should be bid out? Anything over $5,000. I have a niece who's a physical therapist in a school district in Virginia, who tells me that in Virginia, anything over $5,000 has to be put out to bid, and they have a very strict, process for doing that. So anyway, locally and statewide, is there anything we can do to attack that extra, that crazy expense?
Gotcha. So it's obviously a great question. So let me start off with This was by far and away the worst school bus contract I have ever seen. And we didn't even find the legal justification for the fuel surcharges. And the school board tried to go back in time to retro approve a bad contract, which to me is, we're on camera. I've already got in trouble because I said get head out of the ass, and blah, blah, blah. So So, for starters on this, I want to say it's beyond just Scranton on the school. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on my overall pictures on the general. I have found in my just now slightly over 6+ years, 6 years, 1 year out of the general, that the state of Pennsylvania total has spent over what they should have spent on transportation, about $60 million. Okay? Wow. Now, here's the fascinating part of this. There are 500 school districts in Pennsylvania. 17 of them do not competitively bid their school transportation company because you're not legally required. 483 do. The 17 that do not account for 55 of the 60 million when wasted money. Now, you don't have to be an auditor general. You don't have to be a preschool student to figure out there's something wrong with that picture. So, 483 districts. And you just work it out, 5 million by 483. Now you are talking, look, it's a lot of money, but you're talking about percentage-wise, that's pretty small. 55 million for 17, obviously that's large. So to me, first of all, if you're just trying to be just a prudent person, you would bid out every contract that's above, and I would say 10,000, but whether we want to quibble about whether it's 5 or 10, because that's just where I am, but I'm cut the middle, 7,500. Why you wouldn't want to do that would literally blow me. You should want to do that because even if you want the same person to get it or entity or company, it gives you a better ability to negotiate a better deal with them. Okay? That's just number one. Number two, I have called for the legislature to mandate bidding in school bus contracts. I have called for that. To me, it's an easy vote. I mean, there's some votes as a legislator that are hard, right? Oh, I got to cut this, raise that, whatever. To me, this is an easy vote because I've yet to see anyone ever get voted out of office because they mandated school bus transportation contracts be bid. You imagine that right before election? I think Brett Smith is doing a great job, but he made sure we bid our school bus contract. Boy, I'm not voting for that guy anymore. I mean, imagine like the lawn signs, no to RFPs, right? It's just not really going to catch on, right? It's just, I mean, for me, like I've had mail pieces sent against me, TV ads. If my opponent is attacking me on RFPs, I'm like, oh, I don't have to knock on as many doors tonight. I'm exaggerating to make a point. That's not a tough vote. Having said that, I'm not convinced that's going to happen. That doesn't mean the school districts can't do it on their own. They don't have to wait for the state to mandate it. Because there was one other district. They told me, because I hit them on the same issue, they were about $1 million, I forget, but they're a much smaller district. They told me, literally, guess how many of the 14 bid out their contract? 13. So what, they wouldn't bid on Menneson too? And then, lo and behold, a Riverview, same thing in Allegheny County, they bid it out, and then, there was no, they just didn't do it. Riverview in their first year saved $1 million. And they called up and just said, wow, they were again, nobody was on the take, I don't mean that they just didn't do it. First year they bid it out, saved $1 million. So even if somebody believes the current vendor is the right one, and by the way, My job as Auditor General, I don't care who gets these. I just want to make sure it's done fiscally right and all the laws are followed. It is not my job to pick who the vendor is. I could care less. I just want to make sure that we're doing it for the best value for the taxpayers and the kids are safe while they're on that bus. But to me, not bidding it out, even if you're not mandated it, is just dumb. Support, we have someone over here. Support staff or teachers? Oh, okay. Let's hear from them.
Hi, my name is Rebecca O'Brien.
Yeah, well, by the way, I'm happy to hear from both of
Okay,
you. So.
thank you. Anyway, when someone brought up culinary arts, I thought back to my childhood, and again, that was where I really started any type of passion, and it was through my cooking teacher. A lot of kids I know live for music. It usually generally lifts everyone's spirits. That we were shortchanged. This year was the second year Frozen. I've worked 16 years waiting for finally a decent raise. Now that is, not only am I not getting that, I might reduce. So my personal struggle here has been very long in the last few years. You know, I love my job. I love teaching. I'm a reading specialist. I think about all sorts of things. When I taught first grade, I really enjoyed every minute of it. Throughout these last 15 years, I've had a night job. You know, I'm working hard. And I just feel for any cuts to the teacher's salary at this point, after already waiting 2 years, on top of it is just, it's not going to benefit the students. It's definitely not benefiting me because I'm getting worn down. You know, after your small salary, I too have to pay taxes, a lot of it. So my small salary is actually taxed almost half already. That being said, I just feel like everyone that I work with or work around, no one is a lazy teacher that I see. Everyone works hard for these kids. And I do feel that certain things, for example, cooking, music, they all need to be brought back. We have now longer classes too on top of getting paid less. So besides taking a huge pay cut, which I was waiting 16 years for, not only did it hurt me morally, because I feel I'm getting punished as a hard worker, doing everything I can to help these kids for years. Besides being morally hurt, financially hurt, it's really just making everyone's job very difficult. Now I have the students who are wondering why they have to listen to me talk for 60 minutes instead of 50, and also not get to go to specials. And they're good. The kids are not the problem. They work hard as well. So really, I'm just wondering what we can do, basically, to just keep this moving in the right direction. And I just feel any cuts at this point, I know that, you know, the district is broke, but they've got to figure out a way. It can't be the kids, the schools. Last month, we were making a donation. I had the kids cooking with me. It was reading class. It was Christmas. We made basically a soup drive and then collected all the money and randomly surprised a veteran who I was told was crying when he got the present because he had no one. So I noticed my ceilings falling down. I mean, these schools, I don't even complain about that. The heat, the ceilings, that's, you know, we've already made a lot of cuts, and I just feel that something else has to be taken away from, and not the kids, not the teachers anymore. And that's just all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Glennis Johns. Miss O'Brien's a great teacher. I've subbed for her class in the past. I'm a substitute teacher in the Scranton School District. I am also a professor, and I look around this room here, and I am a woman of color. I went to the Scranton School District K through 12, and one thing that is really depressing and really hard to watch is not only does the school district have a hard time supporting students of color, we mentioned the school to prison pipeline. I know a lot of people who are sitting in prison right now or jail, didn't graduate or didn't go to college. I'm a first generation college student, and unfortunately, I don't owe that to the Scranton School District. When I was in high school, they told me that I couldn't even apply to schools outside of Pennsylvania, and my guidance counselor said, you're better off just applying to Lackawanna. Mind you, I ended up going to a school in New York City, and now I'm an adjunct professor with my master's degree, about to work on my PhD. I look around this room, I see a lot of people that don't look like me. I know a lot of students that are in their classroom and it doesn't look like them. I go into these schools every day because I want to, and the impact that I make on these students. I recently started counting all the students I've encountered. I'm up to 723 students that I've impressed. And the looks on their face of seeing a teacher of color in the district in their classroom is so impactful. I have students that come up to me every day and tell me that this is the first time that they've learned something. Not necessarily because of the teachers, but because of the ways in which we treat these kids in the schools. And that is really, really hard. And you know, it was already hard for me coming up out of the school district to see the ways that we're like putting up walls instead of moving obstacles out the way is really devastating to me. And again, I work with Kelly Services, and the battles that we have with Kelly Services, the subs and the teachers, is really hard. And as the middleman, it's hard for me because I go to the classroom, one, because I want to help the teachers. I can really care less about Kelly Service. I don't really say I work for them. I basically work for the district because I want to help just the way everyone sitting here wants to help. So I go there to help these kids. I try my best to work on whatever curriculum, try and bring art since that's gone. So again, like I just wanted to really emphasize that I want to support the black and brown kids here. They have no representation. There's only one black teacher in the school, Mr. Robert McLeod, and we've had many conversations. And when you're a teacher of color, you have students coming to you for multiple reasons. They don't have idols. They don't have support sometimes. The obstacles that they go through on a daily basis are not the same. So for me, I want to be there. I don't sub every single day, but I go there, I'm excited. I sub K through 12. I try to see every classroom. Like I said, my goal is to meet every single one of these kids and let them know that they matter. And it's, again, really, really important, and it's so devastating. And the last thing I want to say, what hurt me the most to see all the librarians go, because I think you cannot separate library and school. You cannot separate books from school. And not only is a library a space for reading and it's a space for quiet. And we know we have a lot of kids with learning support. A lot of kids cannot stand the loudness of a school every single day, and that's where they go for some peace and quiet. It's the only place in the school that it just says there's no talking there. And for me personally, I didn't even go to lunch. I went to the library just so I can sit and just have peace of mind. The doors are locked in almost every school. They get, 15 minutes in some classes a week to pick out a book, if that? Every 3 weeks, see? So it's really hard, you know, and it's like, how are we expecting these kids to have reading comprehension? Like you said, we fight for a global economy now. We're not setting these kids up to be prepared. It's like, we want our kids to fail, and if the schools fail, we fail. If the kids are not successful, the city crumbles. What are you going to do? Like, again, a lot of my friends and peers and just people around me that I know, again, I don't really see that many people of color in this room. You know why? They work so hard. These are low-income families that have so many struggles. They can't sit here and speak up. And a lot of times, regardless of color, parents are expecting their kids to go to the schools, and the schools are teaching them. They're putting a lot of faith into these schools. Parents don't know what the kids are coming home and taking away from. So teachers have a big responsibility. Like Ms. O'Brien was saying, she cares for these kids. I've met her students. They're all amazing. A lot of these teachers I've met, personally talked to, they request me because, you know, it's hard when, you know, you put your faith into somebody else to watch over these kids, and people aren't even giving them a chance. And like, that's the worst part to me, is seeing these kids get the short end of the stick, because it's not fair. They didn't do that. They have to go there. They're not choosing any of this. So I think we need to come up with other ways. My last recommendation, because I don't want to take up everybody else's time here, we need to use the resources. I'm guaranteed most of the people here are Scranton School District alum. Maybe there's a way we can incorporate that. Can we get volunteers to drive the buses? Can we own a couple buses and get people trained just to drive them to save money? Can we get the colleges, the students in there to actually support the teachers, to have the people that are learning, trying to do learning support, special education teaching? Can we get those students in here? Because there's a lot of students that are in the colleges that can help the schools. We need to come up with more partnerships in the community, and we also need to wake up our neighbors and let them know what's going on. So those are my quick recommendations, and like I said, I'm always here. I'm always going to support your child and your students, and I'm especially going to support the black and brown students because, like I said, coming out of that school district, I had to teach myself how to write a paper in college, and that's not fair. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm a college professor teaching undergrad sociology. And it's not because of this district. So I'm gonna just let everyone know that right now, there's a lot of kids that look like me who don't even have the opportunities. I'm a first generation college student. I thank God every day I'm able to do what I do. So again, I hope we make some improvements, and I'm here to support the school district, not tear it down. So I'm gonna just end like that.
Couple items. First of all, the Scranton School District is becoming increasingly diverse, and it must be a top priority mission for the district to make sure that every kid, regardless of race, ethnicity, orientation, and for most of you that may not know this, although some of you I'm sure do, significant number of languages spoken in the district as well. It must be a top priority of the district. Now, the other item that I think is important to talk about is we do have to probably think about some outside the box solutions to some of these topics. One thing that I am amazed about when I meet the teachers from Scranton is that how many of them are from Scranton originally. So there is a deep, abiding love for this community that we can tap into, but we're going to probably need a full array of services. I don't have the answer to that, but I do think that's a discussion we have to have. So next one is going to be general resident. Then again, we'll come back. So we're over here, this lady over here, and then again, we'll come back.
Hi, good evening. My name's Rose Hume. I'm a foreigner. I moved here just shortly before you became Auditor General, and I've had 6 years to observe.
Boy, was that a problem for you. You came right before you thought it was all safe, and then I got elected.
I know, I got this close.
Yeah, you were very close.
Yeah. The thing is, as an outsider, sometimes you can observe things that possibly people get very close to. And I think tonight what we're doing is we're discussing 2 topics, both of which are extremely important. One of them is education in general, and there are several points I'd briefly like to make about that. First one is, I do not understand how economic rationalists cannot not understand that $1 spent at preschool saves you $16 in remedial. Right. How a government can predicate the number of jail cells it will need in 10 years on 3rd grade reading levels, which is chilling. I guess it's because school children don't vote, and possibly their parents have multi-issues that they vote on, but it just is crazy. These are the investment. Tonight we've heard about priorities and wish lists, and God knows every one of them. I wish one of us in this room would win $100 million we could throw it into the school district. It doesn't work like that. There's the wish list, what we'd love to have, the ideal versus the possible. I'd love to have a swimming pool in every school. I'd love to have every library open and everything is, but the dollars are finite. We can't do that much. Part of what we can do is possibly realise we're educating children for a modern world with modern curricula and modern things using a pedagogic method from the 1850s. But we don't have the time to stop and look at possibly more effective pedagogic methods because we are not treating our teachers like professionals. My daughter works at a non-profit preschool. We are paying people with 4-year degrees and $100,000 in student debt, less than they can make driving one of the famous buses in this district. Not because we want to.
That's...
It's the economics. So I really believe that there's a whole lot we can do about education in general. But the second issue tonight, which is I think as important and what brought everyone here, are the specific issues that face this school district. And this school district is running as fast as it can, not like Alice to stay in the same place, but to go backwards. And that's not because of the teachers, and it's not because of the kids, and it's not because of the fact that federal law mandates we have to do our special education, and it's not because our buildings are old, and it's not that. It's a whole bunch of those factors. For the community to get behind the Scranton School District, for the work to be done that we need to do to make this district fiscally sound and focused where it should be on the educational outcome of every single one of those 10,000 children, The community has to have trust in the school board. And I came here 6 years ago. I follow these sorts of things. You get old, you have hobbies. The lack of public trust in our current school board is not based on the individual members, it is based on the track record of the board from the past to now, symptomatic of which are the shenanigans going on over that bus contract, the attempt to retroactively make it legal, the lack of transparency on accounts, the lack of transparency on what we're doing to fix it. Symptomatic also was the recent election at the school board, which took place late at night. It was in violation of the sunshine laws. It was not put on the agenda. People were not asked to reapply. There was a whole bunch of problems with that. I do not know. I'm hoping that it will be made invalid. The action of the...
By the way, I believe that was an illegal appointment. And just a quick point, is that I don't have the legal authority to audit municipal authorities on my own. I have to get invited in. I was asked to audit the Scranton Sewer Authority sale.
Yeah.
Okay? The deciding vote not to allow me to do it was the person they appointed.
We know that, yeah. It is.
Not everyone here knows that.
No, I'm sorry. There, with no disrespect to anyone,
Right.
But the trust of the public in the transparency of the school board would have been a great deal greater had they not gone through
That's right.
5 out of the 6 number 2s in the hat till they got to the one they wanted. And leaving aside that, I am hoping that that is being pursued again. I don't have the status to do it. I'm a foreigner.
You're doing pretty good so far.
But look, the thing is, if we're going to rebuild the trust in the school district, if we are going to stop wasting our time worrying about these kinds of issues, about the bus contracts, about people on the board, we as a community have to be able to have faith. The only way we can have faith is a clean slate moving forward. And I'm not suggesting that we have too much at stake here to look to the past and to people who are locked in the past and the old ways of doing things. Let's do what we can, both to make sure that the board is legally constituted, but also to make sure that the board are on the side of the children and not covering their own necks.
I do believe we have a student up, Jonathan Nasco. Okay.
My name is Jonathan Nasco. I'm class of 2000 at Scranton High School. And we're here both because of what I've heard and what has happened with his band classes. Now, my band was my concert and marching band was one of the biggest and most successful in this town. We had over 300 kids in the concert band, and we had 250 kids in our marching band. We ran up and down the East Coast, winning awards everywhere. Well, now my son told me he gets into middle school, and they're teaching him everything that he learned back in kindergarten, and not giving him instruments. Now, his elementary school teacher, Miss Seacole, and my high school band teacher, Mr. Frew, along with Miss Val and Mr. Rokitsky back then, gave us that passion to do what we do, to make it what we love. And anybody that's been in band knows, band is band. It's not about what color, it's not about what race, not about anything else. A band is a family, and it's a strong family. And what I don't understand is why you've taken kids backwards and not giving them that chance to become the next Mariah Carey, the next Kane Brown, because you're throwing them down back to an elementary level and not helping them progress through their education. And I'll give you to my son so he can explain more of what he's did to try to get this going.
I'm Jonathan Nasco. I go to South Scranton Intermediate and I go to 6th grade. I started a week yesterday a petition online and throughout my school. I have progressed. Online has 261 signatures so far. At school, there is 106 people signatures so far. I did this for because in elementary
There's a petition there?
Yeah, petition. I have a copy.
Or I'll sign it. It does have, keep going. And 106. You keep going up. My name's a long name.
So far, I've been a band student since 4th grade. When doing this, I enjoyed it. Every 4th grade I had band Wednesdays, 5th grade I had them on Thursdays. I used to always go to school happy because I knew band, I could, if I didn't have a good day, I could express my feelings there with percussion. It's not only...
You're a percussionist?
Yeah.
Or myself?
Well, I don't think it's right how they took it away. And how they took library. Well, when I started this, I was nervous because I didn't think anyone was going to be on my side. But thinking I have teachers that help me with this, Miss Walker. And I don't know if she's here, Miss Ferguson also helped me with this. It's just, I went into where you get the show around where your classes are. I went into, I'm ready for band, I'm ready to hear, ready for concerts. Finding out, I got told there's nothing. I was not excited. It just drained me down. It was really sad for me because I had a lot of people in band when I was in elementary. I went to McNichols. We went to I'm a band fest kid. I went to band fest and we had, I think, 100, maybe 200, I don't remember. And I was so happy because there's hours of training, practicing, and making friends while doing it. That's the best part of this. While doing this, you're making friends. You're not only having fun, yes, you are having fun, but you're also making friends while doing it. If you don't know someone and you're doing it with them, you're going to make friends, good buddies, like I did with my friends. I know a lot of people who wanted to bring band back, because also my dad was a band. Maybe a marching band was a big thing. Well, I want to bring that back. I know what we're learning now was I learned back in, as we say, 1st grade. Well, what I'm going to forget is what I got taught about percussion. We're having that 3-year gap from 5th through all the way to high school. I think, well, I have something that I had kids help me write. I see the clipboard then. We, the students of South Scranton Intermediate School, we would like the orchestra, band, and chorus to return to the middle school. We enjoy the music programs in elementary school. We'd like to continue them in high school. It isn't fair that we cannot participate in them in 6th through 8th grade. Please bring them back.
Now, who wants to go next? I want. Oh no, I meant that as a joke because one time I had to speak right before President Obama, and I was like, oh. Go ahead, fire away.
I am not President Obama, but I have met him, and I know why you'd be nervous. My name is Rosemary Boland, and I am the president of the Scranton Federation of Teachers. I especially want to thank you for talking about music, because as the Auditor General said, his son is a musician, and this, as I told him earlier tonight, my nephew is going to his recital this Saturday night because he's a music therapy student at Marywood. So don't give up on that dream, whatever you do. So, most of us in this room are the Scranton School District. Our students are here, our teachers are here, our paras are here, our parents are here. And we are one of the strongest communities in this state, if not this nation. We'll stand up for our students, ourselves, all of the time. It doesn't matter anymore. In this town, we don't give up. We will not give up. And we're not going to give up the fact that we feel lousy going into work every day. A year and a half we're without a contract in this town. And everybody keeps saying there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. There's never been money since I started in this job. No. Never. And every 3 years or 4, there's never money. I don't know what happens in between when they have money, but there's never money. We all know what the root of this problem is. We know where the problem lives, who's sucking the lifeblood out of our district. And many districts across the state are suffering the same plight. We have in our district 80% plus poverty rate. That's right. We have 38 languages in this district. 38. And the teachers and the paraprofessionals go in every day and try and work with that. We have a United Nations here. We have students who just came to this country from the Congo and settled here in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Imagine the climate change. It's unbelievable. When I graduated from this school, Central High School, in my class, there were 2 young girls. They were juniors. One of them became the Moscow bureau chief for CNN. Здравствуйте, ребята. At this school, we studied Russian, German, Latin, Spanish, because it was offered. But the 1 year that we had our Russian, they decided, the district decided in its genius, to cut it. So our Russian teacher tutored in the morning these 2 girls. They were twins, the Doherty sisters. And one of them, both of them actually, scored perfect scores on the SATs in Russian. One of them became the CNN Moscow bureau chief. Not so many months ago, when our Russian teacher passed away, Mr. Peregrine, Jill Doherty wrote an article in the Scranton Times about her teacher and the sacrifices he made to make her life possible. Teachers make sacrifices every day in this town. We buy clothes for our students. We buy underwear for our students. We buy shoes for our students. We buy food for our students. We give them canned goods, food to take home every day of the week. People think they're going to beat us. No, they're not. No, they're not. Does Harrisburg think they're going to beat us? If they do, they better wake up to that. This town, a few years ago, had 25% approximate non-taxable properties. Now we're up to 40. So how do we survive that? Properties we can't tax. on top of all the other mess we have here. We've had school board meeting after school board meeting after school board meeting where teachers in this district stood up and told the truth and heard the sounds of silence. We still are hearing the sounds of silence. I'm one of the 2 teachers who was in the room the night that gentleman became a school director. I read in the morning paper, I guess I don't count. I was told I'm not a public person. Somebody needs to look up those words. I live in Scranton, I own my home here, and I pay my taxes here, and I went to school here. I go to church here. And we will not be demoralized, and we're not giving in. We will not quit. If that means the 900 families that I represent have to get aboard buses and travel to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to make the deaf hear, we will do that. And I'm not just the president of the Scranton Federation of Teachers, I'm the executive vice president of the state AFT Pennsylvania. We can do that too. Because it seems to me the poorer districts are the districts getting beat up. It's not the affluent districts getting beat up, it's the poor districts where families can't express themselves in English. 38 languages are here. Does anybody in this room speak Swahili? I don't, and I was a language major. So, we intend, this union of ours, we intend to share with our community what we know. If we have to hire translators, we're going to do it. But everybody better beware, because our kids count. They count as much as the kids in Philly, Chester, Upland. I don't care where you live. I don't care where your zip code is. Our kids count. And they're going to get that music. They're going to get their life classes back. And by God, they're going to get books in libraries so they can read too. Everybody talks about literacy. They're full of it. They don't care about literacy. They don't want literacy for our kids. That's why there were people like my grandfathers in the coal mines, to keep them there, because books set you free. And if anybody thinks our kids are going to be kept in the coal mines, they can think again. Not while I breathe, they're not. And our kids count. And every man, woman, and child in this town better stand up for every child in this town, and I better see some standing up, because our kids count.
Before I go to support staff, someone, I want to say, just to reiterate, or if I haven't said it before, what I'm doing is taking this information, or Team's writing this down, so in about a week, we're going to put out a host of recommendations from this and some other discussions that I believe the recovery plan must include. And then I'll be meeting with legislators on both sides of the aisle, House and Senate, and I'll be meeting privately with the governor, and my team will meet with his team and the Secretary of Education to let them know. And that will be available on our website as well, so everyone has a chance to see it. So next up, I want to hear from someone in support staff. So.
Hello, my name is Erin Harris, and I work for the Scranton School District in Annapara. I'm here 24 years, and I have concerns. And my concerns are that things are not going to continue in the way that they were. And I need people misbehaving. I'm very concerned about that. I know a lot of other people here are concerned, and I want to know what we can do to stop it.
walk me through, or just,
When you come in here for the recovery,
yeah.
I would like it if you would come in and talk to the teachers and talk to the parents, and not necessarily, this is going to be frowned upon, but not necessarily go down to administration.
First of all, I don't know, I will speak to the two. One, I don't know who the recovery officer will be. But I will tell you, if you want, I'm more than happy to come back and explain my recommendations of what I believe. I'm more than happy to do that, yes.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to tell you, I will share it with the administration as well, but I think everyone in this room, teachers, support staff, parents, students, all need to see it as well, as does the governor and the legislature. So, but yes, it's not going to be just the administration. And I'm more than happy to come back here and share it publicly and make the case for it. And if there's things that need to be improved on it, need be. And, I'm saying this, and my IT person will probably yell at me through the computer when I say this, but we need to figure out, team, a way for people to comment on the plan via the website when we put it out there as well. So not everyone sometimes wants to say something in one of these type of forms. So if someone wants to make it confidential, just say who they are, but do it over the website. We'll figure out a way to make that happen.
Probably would have been better if you told me that a little bit louder.
We all try to get a little better.
My name.
Well, let's get you like.
I probably don't need one. My name is Michelle Petretis. My husband is a teacher at Northeast. He's an FCS teacher. We live here in Scranton. My children both attend Scranton schools, and I own a business here in Scranton.
Other than that, you're not involved.
Not at all. One of my concerns is our board members are elected members. However, we don't have a stipulation of what they should have as knowledge prior to walking into the position. So we elect people who we think will do a good job, and they're uneducated sometimes in what they need to do. That is not a fault of theirs or anybody's, the system. Transparency has been mentioned several times. You're offering a great solution of us to be able to talk to you again in the future, and that is one of my concerns and one of my questions. If I have a concern or question, and I ask the board during a meeting, there's never a response opportunity in any way, shape, or form. So if I ask or make a recommendation, I never hear a response ever back. And so for me, that's one of my frustrations. So Dr. Kirian institutes something. We never have an opportunity as parents or taxpayers to be able to refute and say, why are we doing this? I don't understand. For instance, Common Core is not my favorite at all. I would like to see that change, but I can tell that to anybody, and no one ever does anything or responds to it in any way. My husband was on the furlough list for a period of time last year. We didn't find out until 2 days before the end of the year whether or not he was going to be hired back again next year. Unfair as though that whole situation was, we picked it up and we could talk about whatever we wanted to. It all falls on deaf ears. No one ever responds. How do we help the board make better choices for all of us? How do we hold them accountable for mistakes? And the transparency really needs to start like flooding out. They hired that person illegally, and what do we do? How do I stand up and say, no, that's not acceptable?
There is not, I may ramble a little bit, but I'll try to make it. When I say this, I'm going to try to be politically neutral on philosophy. There were a lot of people that ran for Congress last year that under any other year, would have never dreamed of running. And a lot of them, even though they didn't have 3 nickels to their own checking account, somehow beat entrenched accountants. Because sometimes there's those moments where things just come around. And whether it lasts forever or not, who knows, right? I'm just saying, like, but that happened. There were people that beat entrenched members of both parties in primary. That's right. So where I'm coming to is, whether it's whoever it may be, and I'm not here to campaign for or against anybody.
And I'm not really making a statement against the current
No,
board.
that's right. But I think what I think does relate to last November is that we voted as a society like it was a presidential election. No. That has to change. Yeah. So the point is that regardless of who the board members are, if the community doesn't care, even if the board members are great, it's hard. So
How do we change that?
it starts like by stuff like this. It starts by
Just the community that's here. There are teachers here, but I am so appalled that every single teacher side.
but we don't know what's going. Somebody may be in a hospital. There could be a lot of
There's
things.
so many that aren't here though.
No, I know, but I never get into, because I've been doing this. We don't know what happens. There may be something that came up, whatever. But the point is, everybody here can have a coffee and invite 5 of your neighbors over and invite school board members and candidates to come talk to them. And that's to try to build support for an agenda more so than individual candidates.
It's just a better way to.
But the way it happens is that every single person, not just here, but in the city, takes ownership of this, and they talk to 3 or 4 people, because I know the voter turnout percentage in the presidential election, and I see it for school board, not just here, but across Pennsylvania, probably across the United States. That has to change. That has to change. So we're going to go back to a student, and then we're going to keep working through it. That's not my rule. That's not state law. That's not the Constitution. It's not the First Amendment. What's that?
How do we get answers?
Look, I can't force human beings to talk. If a school board member isn't answering you, then get that person out of office. That is up to a question, because I want to come back to a student. For the state to make that decision, what would likely happen, because this is not my call, Secretary of Education. The recovery officer will put together a recovery plan. That's one of the things I'm talking about, and other people will weigh in on that as well. The school board has to approve that recovery plan. If they do not, it then becomes much more possible that the state takes over the district.
So I'm sorry, and I have to be clear. So there's a recovery plan that is presented to the school board.
Yeah.
The school board says, yes, we'll follow this recovery
Right.
plan. What is this uncomfortable to follow that plan? And then if they don't follow the plan, does the state say you didn't follow the rules?
So if they say yes and then still don't do it, that still leaves the door open for a state takeover.
So the state's going to come in.
Student. Is there a student? Any more students? I know we only had a couple sign up. Teacher. Over parents next, after teacher, support staff, then parent.
I'm a retired teacher. I began teaching in this district in 1959, so I'm a very old person. And I'm very sad to stand up here tonight and to be here tonight and to hear this discussion. Rosemary talked about we could go on a march. That's where I began. 1986. We took the entire state, because we didn't have the right to bargain. We just collectively begged. And then finally, after some of us went on strike, even though we didn't have the right to strike, we eventually got the right to strike. And for me to sit here now, 50-some years later, and hear the very same arguments that we fought for back in the 60s and early 70s, it is unbelievably sad to me because I've remained active. I'm going to retire one of these days from retirement. But I'm still working at this because my love is the Scranton School District. My love is public education. My love is getting the right things for teachers and students. Because what you do for teachers affects the students, and the students affect the teachers. You can't separate the two. The money part really bothers me. We had to beg for money. We got a $900 raise on our first strike, and a taxpayer brought a lawsuit against the school district for giving us the wages on an illegal strike. We had to go to the legislature for amnesty. And it was then that I found out. And I want every teacher in the room to know this. And if the teachers don't do anything about it, then who will? Every educational decision is a political decision. You get your job by 5 votes on the school board, and then what you teach and how you teach is decided by the Secretary of Education, who gets appointed by the governor. The governor is your they even vote on your death benefit. So and if every teacher isn't voting, that's when I really get upset. And if every teacher isn't fighting for this and becoming politically involved, and the lady before asked what you can do, what you all can do is vote and pay attention to the school board. People, they get all excited about the president, they get all excited about everything else, but nobody gets excited about school board members. They don't even pay attention to it. And then when it doesn't work, they say, oh, isn't this awful? And I'm tired of my property taxes. I've been fighting that property tax idea for 50 years. Somebody taught me a long time ago, money goes away, but property doesn't go away. And all those states that you see that are marching now, they don't have property taxes. Because the state is supposed to give you 50%, and the federal government is supposed to give you 25%. Then you wouldn't be paying these big property taxes. The federal government is now giving you 6%. The state is giving you something like 32 or 33%. Well, then where else are we going to get the money? We go to the property. And all the property people, and then how disingenuous people running for legislatures saying to these people, we'll get rid of your property taxes. What makes you think if they get rid of it, and then we get money from somewhere else, they're going to give it to you anyway? They don't give it to us now. So it is, if you really want to do something about it, you attend school board meetings. You make sure you get the right people on the board. And if they aren't doing what you want them to do, then, vote them out of office. But everybody has to be involved in it. And it isn't easy. It's so sad because I've been doing this for 50 years and I'm tired. And I feel so badly when I hear people asking for the same things that we worked for all those years. And now I see those things that they didn't give us, duty-free lunch. They didn't give us, class size and those things because, they liked us. They gave it to us, we fought for it. Everything we ever got in education, we fought for. And now, almost 60 years later, we're still fighting for the same things. But if you want to change it, you have to be an involved citizen. You have to do that. There's no other answer.
Next up, anyone from support staff? If not, I want to hear, then we'll go to a parent, right? Parent?
Hi, my name is Vivian Williams. I have 3 children in the district, who 2 of them have IEPs. One has just dyslexia, though one has autism. So I'm affected in multiple ways by the teachers and the support that we receive. My 4th grader came home today and her teacher was absent, who I absolutely adore. Kim Bird is phenomenal. But she was out and there was no sub. So the class got split up. So on top of the 25 kids that are already in a 4th grade classroom, there's now 6 more. So my daughter was in a class with 31 kids. My son, who has autism, like I said, is mainstreamed and integrated. Same thing happened in October. Kindergarten, 5 and 6-year-olds first time in the school. Teacher was absent. They got split up between 2 classes. There were nearly 40 kids in a classroom. It scares me for my son's safety, for all of your children's safety. I'm very involved. I think some students think I work at my children's school. I don't. But the PTA supports our field trips. I wish we can do so much more with field trips, but busing is a huge component of it. There are so many places that would give us free trips to different theaters, different opportunities, but because we cannot get a bus without a $250 to $500 bill, our students get 1 field trip a year, and it's not even to anywhere that would open up their eyes. You know, there's so many local places that we can take them that we are just limited to, and we can't support them with that. I just feel that it's the staff that suffers, and it's like they said, I've been there many times that I've seen a teacher in the school go out and buy a coat for a student. I've seen shoes come in. I've seen a teacher text me and ask me if I could pick something up at a nonprofit I work at for students. Our teachers care about our students, and it is a community. I know half of our teachers in our school, their children go to that school. So not only is it their source of income, but it's teaching their children as well.
Mr. DePasquale, first off, I want to say thank you very much for having this forum tonight. My name is Paul Duffy. I am the father of a 3rd grade student at Prescott Elementary. I'm also on the Scranton School Board. I was conflicted about whether to come here tonight because I wasn't sure what I was going to hear. I have to be honest, although it's been harsh and critical at times, it's all important and it's all very good. There are 2 things that I wanted to speak to specifically. One thing that I think has been glossed over slightly, however, what our district receives through the fair funding formula, what you talked about originally in the very beginning, is absolutely insanely infinitesimal compared to what everyone else gets. Every district in the state that has over 7,000 kids in it, which I believe is about 55 to 60, get funded at a level different than we do. They get funded at a level higher than we do. It's the biggest problem. I've heard a lot of people talking about how our people are coming into our district. Other districts like Erie, Chester, Upland, Westmoreland, they all have gotten extra money from the state, so have we. One thing that I do like to hear is they did get extra money. What none of those districts were having was an increase in population. We have people pouring into our district.
An increase into the school age.
Into the school age population. In 1 quarter, we've risen over 100 students. Ms. Bullen spoke about a person that speaks Swahili. In my 3rd grade class, my son sits with a child who speaks Swahili, and the only reason he's in that class, he doesn't live in the district, but the child next to him also speaks Swahili. The fastest growing population in our district right now is the Nepalese community and the Indian community. They are severely unrepresented. They have kids that are 13 to 3 to 17, and we can't keep up with it. There's no way that we could afford to have 1 less teacher in any classroom. There's no way that I would ever vote to reduce any teachers. And I already, and listen, I already did. And you know what else I have to do? I have to go to school and I have to pick my son up every day and I have to look at those teachers in the face, knowing what I did. I was a police officer for 15 years. I was laid off myself when my wife was 7 months pregnant with the son that currently goes to that school. It was the most difficult thing I ever had to do. And I'll give you at least some solace. I'm never going to run for this position again. That being said, I don't think you'd be clapping as much as you knew how much I truly cared, how much that this means to me, how much that every kid in this district means to me. I thank you so much for having this tonight. I thank everybody, and I'm very sorry that we couldn't have more of it. So thank you very much. The last thing I wanted to bring up was you did mention something in the Scranton Times a few weeks back about mental health and it being brought to the forefront, and it was written in the Scranton Times. That's something that we have been working on. It's something that I think I've started, along with many other board members, to have a conversation with a local group that has been in the area for a long time, the Lewis Ruskin Foundation, and they deal with suicide and mental health issues. It's a big district, and unfortunately, these things do happen in our district. So I'd like to know if there's anything that I could do or we could do as a board to positively affect that. And thank you again for your time, and thank you so much for letting me speak.
First of all, thank you for your service as a police officer. And I know it's probably been somewhat rough to hear some of the stuff tonight, but I just want to say, as someone that's been an elected official, and I'm not asking you to agree with anything he's done, but you're here tonight, you heard the music, and you got up and spoke, so thank you. Next up, because I don't think any more students sign up, so is there a teacher that wants to speak? Well, we're going to hear and here. We'll go both.
Christine Walker, I live in the city. I'm a teacher in the Scranton School District. And just a couple of things that I wanted to comment on. They talked about looking for other ways for funding, and I think, you know, you had mentioned it, some other people had mentioned it, is now there's that complete mistrust. And it's like when you find out you've been donating money to a charity, and then the report comes out and you find that only 1% of the money that's been donated has actually gotten to the people that it needs to go to. So I think we've got a lot of work to do with our community because there is no trust. There's no trust from the educators, we don't trust the board, we don't trust the administrators, and probably vice versa. So there's a lot of work there. The one thing that I think has me the most upset is teaching in this district for over 15 years, is that in the last 5-6 years, when all of these things have really come to the surface, the one thing that hasn't changed is what's been given to our students. In the last 6 years or so, or longer, we are taking everything away, aside from the music, aside from the library. Every day I look at my 27 kids in a class or 30 kids in the class, and I think they've got nothing more than what I can personally give them. You know, and I hope that I do thank the school board members who are here, you know, for listening. I don't know if any of the administrators are here that are listening. You know, we're not just trying to be greedy, but I am saying, I look at these kids and I think there is nothing else that this district has been able to provide to you besides what I, as a teacher, can give to you. We know the population is changing. It's a huge issue. We don't have money for planners. We're nickel and diming the budget where we're cutting $500 here, $1,000 here, and in the grand scheme of the millions of dollars that we're behind, we're taking those little things that were helping the students, we've taken them away from them. We have no ability to help them after school with any special tutoring. We have all the languages. Can't get in touch with some of the parents because we don't have money for people to translate to call home if the parents don't speak English. So we're trying to do our jobs. Again, the money may come in, and that's great that we're trying to get more funding. But as people have said before, how are we going to guarantee that this money gets to our students and the help that they need and all of that other things? Because there's no trust. There's absolutely no trust. I think that's the biggest thing right now that we have to overcome.
I'm going to do everything I can to try to make sure that happens. There's no guarantee. I know we are out of time. We've got one more speaker over here. But let me say this before we go. We're out of time. If people can go to paauditor.gov and submit time, because I know it's and 8 o'clock is the time we're done here. But we have one more lady over here that wanted to say something.
My name is Courtney Novak. I'm a parent, a teacher, and a taxpayer as well. One thing that I've heard over the last few months, especially after the audits and everything, is everybody can't wait for the state to come in. Not everybody sitting here in this room, but it's been a common comment in the newspaper and everything else. Our kids have lost a lot. I have a first grader, I have a fourth grader. They have lost a lot. If you look at the history of when the state comes in to take over, they're going to lose a lot more. What everybody needs to start questioning is when the state is going to start fairly funding our district. We're currently approximately $2,000 per pupil underfunded. That's $20 million. If you do the math, we would not be in the position we are at. The answer is not for the state to come in and take over. Do I agree that somebody needs to come in to help oversee those additional funds until trust is built back up? Absolutely. But until we get the funding that our students deserve, we're never going to get out of this mess.
Everyone, thank you for your time. Again, for those that didn't get a chance to say something, want to, paauditor.gov, and we'll be back to talk about at least my recommendation for the recovery plan. Thank you and have a great night.